Is that on? Yes.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Livia. So when Livia came to me to discuss this topic, and she was like, "Well, let's. How about you do family relationships?" I had to sit there and I got knocked back for like a second. And I was sitting like, me, family relationships, not the best track record with families at the moment. And then I said, like, well, this is an opportunity to learn. So I went as I started doing this thing, I went back and as always I started researching, going through the Spirit's book, the Gospel, all 5 books of the codification. And then as I was starting to read it again and listening to previous lectures and things like this, we were talking about the different types of love and things like this. I was like, it was kind of inspiring me and helping me out to feel for this lecture. And then I started reading again as I was preparing for this. Which did not pop up on the screen.
I think you might need to close everything open again.
Close and reopen?
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes it gets stuck.
Okay.
That's the best way to go.
All right.
This computer is very emotional. Very moody.
All right. There it is. So I started researching this, and unfortunately I got to stay by the podium this time. So I was going through the Spirit's book, and I started finding all these different sections from all over the book. I got question 53, 205, 681, 685. And it was funny because like 681 and 685 reference back to 205. So I was like, that must be a really important one. And then as I was going through, I went through and I started highlighting it. And I was looking at this and I was saying, like, question 53, do these different human races imply distinct species? Because it was talking about all the different races of humanity and everything else. But the Spirit's answer came up, all are of the same family. I was like, okay, so we're talking about the different races, but the Spirits didn't respond in that. They said family. So like, okay. And then keep reading again. And I was sitting here in 205. Since kinships may be based on previous affections, the ties that unite members of the same family are less precarious. Moreover, reincarnation broadens the duties of fraternity because your neighbor or your servant may be a spirit who was formerly related to you by blood. I was like, okay, now we're starting to build upon that. We kind of already been told family, but then we're saying it's like, as you've lived your lives, people you know could have been your blood relations. And then maybe in the future lives, people you know will become future relations, blood relations. So you have people that are maybe a part of your family now, were a part of your family then, or will be a part of your future in the future. So like all of a sudden it's like you're starting to build these connections that are linking everyone together. And then that's when it says like here, then you go on to further into the Spirit's book, 681. That's why God made filial love and parental love natural sentiments, so that by such mutual love the members of the same family may be led to help each other. Okay? So then we got family again here to help each other. We got all in the human family are of the same family. So now I can start building some connections here. So we need to help each other in our families, and yet all of humanity is the same family. So now we're starting to build onto that, where we got to show charity to all members of the human race because we are all members of the same family. Even though we don't recognize it today, it is something that God is kind of pushing on us to sit there and say, it's like, we are united. We are a universal family under God. So we have to start treating each other as brothers and sisters. We have to keep thinking of ourselves, even if you have troubles with somebody, a co-worker or something like that, we have to start thinking and treating them as our brothers and sisters. And yes, we all probably have had a brother or sister or a cousin that we didn't get along with. But that still doesn't mean you still work you still try to interact with them. You don't just totally isolate them.
Not sometimes.
Sometimes, but eventually you get over it, because that's the part of the
They isolate us, okay.
yeah, but that's part of it's part of the family. I mean, like I says, I was going through this myself. I was like, okay, but then they throw this other one in here in 685. In the absence of a family, society should replace it. So we have, even though we got family, all humanity is family, we also have the human society should jump in to replace. And that's one of the good things. Like, I know this center here, we have the outreach where we help others. We have like a sister group or something that we help.
Yeah.
And we send toys and things to this other things. So we're, as a society, helping other members of another society through the same thing. So it was like maybe someone doesn't have close family. They were an orphan or something like this. And even reading through the books, the Andre Louise series of books, there are many cases where a person has been placed in a family that's going to be orphaned. They have a challenge in their life that they won't have their parents. They won't have brothers and sisters. But they will either be adopted or they will be brought into another family later on in life. So they'll go through the struggles of being alone, but then eventually someone will come and bring them back in. And this is one of those things where we have to keep in mind, it's like some people may have had rough times and rough relationships, but we should all treat them as brothers and sisters. And we don't know what's in everyone's background. We can't. And likewise, we don't understand. We don't know what happened in our past lives. We can guess, we can assume some things, but we don't know in any detail. We're not supposed to know, because that allows us to mend fences and rebuild bridges that may have been burned in past lives, and saying, hey, yeah, you may have wronged me in this life, but in 2 lives later, we were able to be friends. And then 3 lives later, we are part of the same family. So, and we treat each other with the respect of well-liked family members. So it was one of these things where the forgetfulness we have from our past lives helps us to rebuild and treat everyone as members of a family. Because then we can sit there and look, especially with the stuff going on overseas in Russia and the Ukraine. It's like, they're brothers and sisters, but they shouldn't be fighting each other. They should be embracing each other as brothers and sisters. And hopefully the message of peace will one day rain down, and all of us will be able to treat all of humanity as brothers and sisters, no matter where they are in the world and from wherever they come from. So, and then keep going. Spirits Book 774. This is another one that brought back 205. So it was kind of interesting seeing 205 referenced yet again. For humans, there's something beyond physical needs. There's a need to progress. Social ties are necessary for progress, and family ties strengthen social ties. Hence, family ties are a law of nature. God has thus willed that humans learn to love one another as brothers and sisters. I kind of jumped ahead, I guess, a little bit on that one. But then I had to throw this last one in here, 775, because this is the opposite. What would be the result for a society if family ties were relaxed? A magnification of selfishness. And so I had to throw in the opposite side of the coin there. It's like, there's such a need for family. And then as I was reading just through in the Spirits Book, the family is not just your mother, father, brother, sister, wife, kids. I've already kind of said, even in the Spirits Book, going through just those sections, it's incorporating everybody. And we need to, again, learn from one another and everything. But if we don't treat each other with that kind of respect, we don't treat each other as brothers and sisters, what happens? The magnification of selfishness. We don't care about everyone else. And one of my previous topics, that's something I talked about, is like how absolutely dangerous those 3 words are. How toxic I don't care is. That's a topic for another time to bring back up. But it is, anytime I hear that, I cringe. Just because I know there's so much darkness that comes in right after those three words. So, but now we're going to switch. Okay, I went to the Spirit's book, and then I hit the Gospel. Gospel hit this one. There was one whole section, family ties. And as you can see, that's just one piece. That's 18 all by itself, 3 paragraphs. I'm sorry it's written very, very small. So, and you can see I'm using bold here and underlines, but that's everything I started highlighting. And I was just sitting here, and part of it comes back. You see a little bit of it being replayed again. Family ties are not destroyed by reincarnation, as certain persons believe. On the contrary, they are strengthened and become tighter. It is the opposite principle that destroys them. Again, as I was mentioning before, coming in successive lives, people that have been members of your family are still closely connected. And they may become your best friends and everything else. They may not be family in this life, but they're still very, very close to you. Spirits form groups or families united by affection, sympathy, and similar incarnations. So, and then to that, we were talking about societies. Like we're here. All of us are here joined at this peace and knowledge. We all share similar affection, sympathy, similar inclinations. We are all drawn here. And so that in many cases we've become our own separate family. So we have our individual families, and now we have the peace and knowledge family, so that we can turn to each other here as brothers and sisters and be able to help each other out. Even though we're not bound by blood, we are bound by our affinity to one another and our affinity through the Spirit's teachings. And I'll just keep on going. And as well as part of this with the affinity, and I know this has been a topic that's been brought up in several lectures before, they even follow one another into incarnations where they are reunited in the same family or the same circle, working together for their mutual advancements. So it's, again, spirits coming together to help each other, supporting each other, being beneficial to each other. But then, as I said, toward the end of this sentence, they were sitting there saying, what happens if one gets left behind? Less and less attached to matter, their affection is more alive due to the fact that their spirit has become more purified. It's no longer troubled by selfishness or clouds of passions. They therefore pass through unlimited number of corporeal existence without harm of affecting their mutual affection. So they're passing on, and they're not, even if one's starting to fall behind, they are able to reach back. They still love that person, even though they haven't quite, they haven't progressed as with everyone else. They're struggling and they're having, the other ones are willing to turn behind. Their affection is eternal. Love is eternal now. So when you have that love, that family love, for your brotherly love or sisterly love, and it builds not just over one lifetime, but over the lifetime of a spirit that's infinite. This is part of the secrets of how Jesus loved everybody. It's like he had that. He loved everyone as brothers and sisters. Because he's gone through this a long time ago. He was the example. He's the supreme example for us to follow. So no matter who he talked to, he had affection for anyone he talked to. And then here, let's see. And then the affection also survives the body. So it does. It is transcendent. Love is not locked into our physical body. It is transcendental. It is part of our spirit. So it keeps going on. And I'll go right to this bottom one down here. The evil ones better themselves little by little through contact with the good ones and the care they receive from them. The character becomes milder, their habits more purified, and their antipathies are erased. It is thus that the fusion amongst different categories of spirits is established, as occurs on earth amongst ethnicities and cultures. So now, again, this is going sitting here saying, this is further, as Levi was mentioning, kind of like the troubled child, the black sheep of the family. It's like they're brought into a family, but it's a family of people that loved them, that care about them. And they were willing to, and this person was saying, hey, please help me. So he joins a family. He's going to have trouble. He's going to struggle. But in the spirit world, he cried for help. And in the spirit world, his family kind of sit there and says, yes, we will take him in. We will help him. We know this spirit. We're willing to help him and grow. And by the love and things they share, they're trying to bring up this one that was struggling and having troubles, but using the examples of those around, using those family ties, they're starting to able to catch up. And my sister is 2 years behind me, but yet whatever I was going through in school, I didn't realize that she was learning right behind me. When I was being a kid, it was kind of annoying because it was like, why are you following me around and everything else? I didn't realize at the time that was her way of showing affection and everything else. But at the same time, what I didn't know at the time, I had to learn much, much later. I'd go through school. I'm the firstborn. I'm struggling A's and B's in school. She comes behind me 2 years later, straight A's. And I'm like, God. Yes, exactly. But I didn't realize, and I'm using this principle here, because I've gone through it and she saw me go through it, she had the time to learn and master it before she was even given that chance in school. And then I see my nieces, I got that they're 3 years apart, but the youngest is right there with the oldest. They can have conversations, they can talk. There's a 3-year gap, but they are very similar in what they know and how they communicate and everything else. So it's like, so you see this in practice, even not for like morality questions, but just in knowledge. You'll see that there's people that go forth, and then they're learning a skill, and then they turn around and they share it with the people that come behind them. I mean, that's how we progress. That's how the Spiritism doctrine came to be. Even Jesus' message 2,000 years ago. He went through, he told a select group, and they in turn shared it with the members of their families or societal groups, whoever they considered their closest families, and it spread out. And it became these, and we see that these are the doctrines we've seen today, like through the teachings of Jesus and the Spiritist doctrine has spread around the world because it's been such a warm message and people have wanted to share it, and it helps to improve the lives of those that it encounters. So
it's kind of hard to sit together.
It is.
In a dinner table or on a Sunday with those who do not have that level of affinity.
Right.
Sometimes it's so difficult to put that in practice.
It
Or
is.
It's just me.
No.
Or it's just me.
No, it's not you. Not just you.
Oh,
But,
okay.
so.
Okay, too bad.
So I decided to get a little whimsy on this little portion here, and as I was oddly enough inspired by a Sleep Number commercial, and so I came up with "What's your spirit number?"
Okay.
So now there's this common saying that within Spiritism they say there's like two wings. You have your wing of intelligence and you have your wing of morality, and you got to develop both of them to fly. You got to in order to fly straight, they both need to be equal, and you need to improve them. So I sat there and I just quickly drew this up, and I was sitting there saying, okay, so my Portuguese name is Bruno, so we're going to talk about Bruno. So I gave myself intelligence 55, morality 45 in this example. I'm not perfect. I'm about average. Take the two, about 50. So I was like, I'm not Jesus, which is 1,000. And so he's leveled up many times. So I'm sitting like, okay. But I sat there and I was sitting like, okay, I'm an engineer. I know a lot about science and math. I'm pretty good. That's why I bought myself an intelligence. But morality, I've got some things I can work on. I got some things to improve. So I was like, I'm not there yet. I'm working on it. Work in progress. But so if I were to fly, I'd kind of go off go off to a side a little bit. But it's not just me. So say I marry some lady, Marina. Now she's more moral than I am. She's better. She's got morality score 60, intelligence 45, didn't go to college or something like that. But we fall in love and everything else, and we get married and everything like this. But we pair each other. We work together. So now if you look, it's like, okay, maybe since my intelligence works with her intelligence, and we average out, we become a 50 just on our intelligence. She's got a score of 60. I'm 45, so she's going to start boosting my score up if I follow her example, if I listen to her.
She's actually better than you. She's 105 in total.
Yes, you caught that.
That's what you meant.
Yeah, that a comment about women being the fairer race, I kind of bump on that one.
I was going to ask if Maria was your sister, not your wife.
No, on this one, no.
We don't want to get there, right?
So, but let's say we move on and we have 3 kids, Juliana, Benjamin, and Samuel. So, and notice they're across the board. They learn different things. They had different things. Now, bear in mind, they're spirits from different eras. So I've got Benjamin. He's kind of like the black sheep. He gets into all kinds of trouble, but he's smart, just as smart as me. But he, like I says, he gets into all kinds of trouble. He's too smart for his own good. Samuel, the baby of the family, he's even smarter, but yet he's also average with his morals. And then we got Juliana on the other end. She was also more moral than her mother and just as smart, just as intelligent and all that kind of stuff. So even though there's the 2 of us, we have those individual links, and we start building on them. It's like, even though we were trying to raise 3 kids, try to raise them right and everything else, they have their own background, they have their own past history. There's things that they'll pick up real quick. And then there'll be things that they don't, and they'll struggle with, and you have to work with them and try to figure it out. And that's kind of what we were doing here. It's like we're building on those family ties, and then they also have their ties amongst themselves. So Benjamin probably picks on Samuel all the time, and because Samuel's been picked on so much by his older brother, he was sitting there saying, "I don't want that kind of treatment. I don't treat people like that." That's why his score is higher. His morality scores, because he's been picked on, he's been bullied by his older siblings. I mean, he was the baby of the family, and you have these things where it's like, so he would learn from the errors of his siblings. He would also learn from the errors and from the parents and everything else. But now let's go back to the Spirits book.
I thought you were going to ask how far I was sleeping on.
Well, we could do our spirit numbers. We can do a tally and have everyone think in their head of where they would place their intelligence wing and their morality wing. Now, I was saying like we're all ordinary human beings, so I'd say our average is about 50. Because if you're talking like a good spirit, you're talking then maybe in your 60s or 70s on the average, is my guess. I'm just picking numbers as I go. But it's like, and then you got like the not so the naughty spirits that are kind of like in the 40s and 30s and things like that. But you kind of have the range. But so you certainly think for yourself. Where would you put yourself if you had to take a tally? Where is your scores? Now, unfortunately, I can't write on this one. Otherwise, I would, because I'm sitting here like I have these things empty, so I could sit there and pick people and say, what are your numbers and everything else, because there's different blocks, different colors. But it's going back to the topic here. It's like that I just described a personal family. Now we're talking the Spiritist Center family. That's all of us. It's everyone here and everyone in the camera that's watching this presentation. So we're all united together in this group as a family. We all have our different scores. Like we were just mentioning, we all have our different spirit scores. So we all have these different levels that we're at. Some need help in many ways. The center I came from, the center is considered a hospital, anyone that came to that center, they were considered a sick spirit, whether they were in a body or they were disincarnated. They were all brought there with the idea of they're there to seek help. And like I said, whether they are a physical being, person seeking help, or they were a disincarnated spirit, there as an aid station. That's how that center treated itself. So, and I kind of bring that one over. It may not be true here, but it was one of those things where we're saying, like, you come here to look for help, look for assistance, look to learn. It's like a self-improvement course, as you were. You can make it whatever you want it to be. But it's one of these things like you came here to learn something. And what does the Spiritist doctrine really focus on? I mean, it focuses on love, focuses on morality, it has its own science part to it too. So it's telling you, like I said, what brought me to it was a way for me to study myself and, using the words of the doctrine, make myself a better person by using the teachings to mold and guide my path to be a better person. So going through the Spirit's, like part 3 with all the different laws, studying those laws and understanding that there's reasonings for things. And then the one about cause and effect, noticing that is me being an engineer, dealing things on a physical side. Car hits car, you have an accident, but you have all the momentum, inertia, and everything else like that. But then the Spiritism says that's a law of nature. That's God's law. It doesn't stick to just physics. It also applies to morality. So you have emotion. So you have like emotion. If you have positive momentum going, you keep the positive momentum going, unless acted on an outside force. So if you have good thoughts, like she was mentioning before, take the 10 minutes to think and do a positive thought. You're starting a positive momentum going. And then you keep going and going and going. And unless acted on an outside force. And then there was a talk many years ago. It's like people will weigh the positives and negatives. You do a positive action, negative actions. They kind of cancel each other out, and you got a net zero. But you want to be ideally more in the positive when it comes time to disincarnate and go to wherever your next destination is. But they're saying, but the fact that you can just take a law of physics, apply it to morality, I'm like, it was amazing to sit there and think of that and take, and it also brought into point one of the things where it says, like, we always hear out in the outside world how religion and science are kind of like always fighting each other, but they're not. Spiritism even kind of puts it right into it. It's sitting there, it's like, no, they're probably like they're the same coin. They're just different faces. One's dealing with things it can see, the other one can deal with things that it can't see. But yet, when you flip a coin over, it can usually see something else. That side that was focused on the sciences if you turn it over or something, like, now it can focus on something else. And that's what it's doing, is like it can focus on what religion could see in the past. As it moves, as the coin turns around, the science can see it. And now it justifies it. And we've been seeing this through history on how it's beneficial to help each other. We've seen this in society. It's just like, look at the rise of civilization. When a group of people come together as a family or as like a society, and they help each other. People picking certain skills. Like everyone in this, no one here has the same skill set. Everyone is different. Everyone, like I'm an engineer. I think we have like therapists. We have all different types of professions here in this room. So we picked a specialization to sit there and say, like, I chose an engineer so I can build better roads for all of you. So that when you travel and everything else, it's less bumpy and everything else, more lanes, like the I-4 Express and everything else. So that's my contribution to my family. Someone else will have a contribution that will also benefit the family. They learned a specialization to help each other. So now again, we're going back to this. We're helping each other up. We're picking each other up. We all have different skills in order to help that. So when I sit here and think about it, it's like we come here week after week, everything else. We're hopefully becoming friends. Eventually, like I said, we're a family. We're the peace and knowledge family. And so that hopefully when time comes, we'll be able to reflect back or sit here and saying, hey, I remember gentleman, AJ, I think he was mentioning soon, was talking about the reading of 1 page a day of a book. And he's like, I started doing that. Thank you for doing that. I've already read so much just by following that one little suggestion, by 1 page a day. And then he also was saying, like, there was something else he mentioned. He does a prayer before going to bed. And that was brought up 3 years ago. He still does that to this day. And I was like, that's great. That's wonderful. So, and that's where I mentioned to leave it before the thing. It's like, well, here's my little suggestion. So I want to bring a challenge to you. Like, we just celebrated Carnival, Mardi Gras, something like that. It all just happened. And we're in that lovely time between now and Easter. And usually what happens in that time frame is like, and traditionally say you give something up for these days. You do all these sins and be naughty for Carnival and all the way up till and Mardi Gras. Get out of the way because you know you got to be good for 40 days. Well, I said, let's change that up a little bit. Let's make it a different kind of challenge. Within Spiritism, we're always looking to perfect our spirit, perfect our soul, just that little bit more. We're always a work in progress. So I says, okay, every year, we'll just start with this year, find something, a vice, some kind of negative trait that you want to get rid of. And then take these 40 days to get rid of it. Because it takes, I think it was saying like 30 days to build a new habit. So you got 10 days extra to help reinforce the habit. So you can take this time and give up something, but give up something meaningful so that by the time Easter shows up, you are better. You've improved yourself. You've gotten rid of some negative characteristic about yourself that may have been holding you back, that may have not been helpful for you. But it's a matter of things. As I mentioned in this thing, you have a support group. You have family. You have your blood family. You have this family. You have the peace and knowledge family. So it's like, yeah, I'm going through this challenge and it's a real struggle. Can you help me, encourage me, and give me wisdom? I mean, Happy Life brought up a wonderful topic today. So maybe opening up Happy Life again and sit there reading a thing will give you the words and encouragement to help you get through this challenge. Because it's not just us physical ones, as Levi mentioned in the thing. There are disincarnate spirits around us. There's some here in attendance learning this, but there's also like you have your guardian spirits, your family members in the spirit world. They're looking on you and helping you and supporting you. So you have all these things going for you to pick a challenge, whatever, it doesn't matter what it is, but you take this time and sit there and says, make yourself just that little bit better. So that by the time that day comes, that's your finish line, it's gone. I don't have that problem anymore. It's gone. And I made myself just that little bit better. And that's what I would like to leave with you for tonight. So I want to say here, just take a moment, as we mentioned, think about your spirit number and everything else, but also take a moment and say, like, hey, what if there's something I can do to improve that number, just that little bit? And take this opportunity and say, I can do that. It doesn't have to be something big, but you can pick something and say, I'm going to improve by making a positive habit and getting through it, but yet knowing you have support. You have family, not just, like it says, and that's a big family to help you get through it. So thank you for your time. And